Obsession beats talent because talent is a starting position, while obsession is an engine, and a starting position means nothing in a race that lasts decades, where the man who began behind but never stopped running passes the gifted man who coasted on his head start and then sat down. Talent is what you were handed at birth, the natural ease that lets some people pick things up faster than others, and it feels like an advantage because, in the early going, it is won, the talented kid winning the early contests, while the obsessed kid struggles. But the early going is not where lives are decided, and the gap between natural ability fades to nothing against the relentless accumulation of a man who cannot stop thinking about his craft, who works at it when no one is watching, who is still going long after the talented have grown bored and wandered off. Talent gets you to the starting line faster. Obsession is what actually finishes the race. The talented man has a hidden weakness that the obsessed man never develops, which is that when things came easily to him early, he never had to build the capacity to struggle, never learned to push through the wall, never developed the relationship with difficulty that all high achievement eventually requires. He won on ability for years, and so when he finally hits the level where ability alone is not enough, where everyone is talented and only effort separates them, he has no muscle for the grind because he never needed one. The obsessed man, who fought for every inch from the beginning, has been building that muscle the whole time, has a deep familiarity with struggle that becomes his decisive advantage exactly when the competition gets serious. This matters because every field eventually reaches the point where talent is the baseline and obsession is the differentiator. And the man who never learned to struggle arrives at that point already broken, while the man forged in struggle is just getting started. Obsession does something to your relationship with time that talent never can, because the obsessed man does not experience the thousands of hours of practice as a sacrifice or a grind to be endured, but as the thing he most wants to be doing, which means he accumulates the reps that mastery requires without the willpower cost that exhausts everyone else. The man who has to force himself to practice burns through his limited discipline and eventually quits, while the man obsessed with his craft has to be dragged away from it, putting in the hours effortlessly because the work is not work to him, but the deepest expression of who he is. This is the secret engine beneath the 10,000-hour idea that the people who reach the top are usually not grinding against their own resistance, but following an obsession that makes the grinding feel like play. Why this changes everything is that obsession solves the consistency problem that defeats almost everyone, removing the need for endless willpower by replacing it with genuine compulsion, the desire to do the thing rather than the duty to do it. The mind of an obsessed person works on the problem, even when he steps away from it, processing in the background during meals and showers and the moments before sleep, which means the obsessed man is effectively working far more hours than the time he formally spends, his subconscious chewing on the craft around the clock. The merely talented person who clocks in and clocks out, who thinks about his work only when he is doing it, cannot match this total immersion no matter how gifted he is, because the obsessed competitor is bringing his entire mind to bear continuously, while the talented one engages only part-time. This relentless background processing is where breakthroughs come from, the insight that arrives unbidden, because the obsessed mind never actually stopped working on the question. What this means in practice is that obsession multiplies your effective effort far beyond the visible hours, giving the obsessed man an advantage that compounds invisibly, so that he is pulling ahead even in the time when he appears to be doing nothing at all.
Talent tends to make a man fragile in the face of failure, while obsession makes him relentless. Because the talented person has built his identity on being naturally good, which means failure threatens the very thing he believes about himself, and so he avoids the risks that might expose his limits. The obsessed man has no such fragility, because his identity is built not on being gifted, but on his relationship with the craft itself, which means failure is just information, just feedback to be used in the endless pursuit, nothing that touches his fundamental commitment. He fails and tries again, fails and adjusts, fails and keeps coming, because the obsession does not care about protecting an image of natural ability. It cares only about getting better at the thing. This matters because the road to mastery is paved with failure, and the man whose talent makes him afraid to fail will avoid exactly the difficult attempts that growth requires, while the obsessed man runs toward them, using each failure as fuel rather than treating it as a verdict. You cannot manufacture talent, but obsession can be cultivated, which is the most liberating truth in all of this, because it means the advantage that actually wins is the one available to anyone willing to go deep enough into something to fall in love with it. Obsession often starts as mere interest, a spark of curiosity that most people let die, but that the future master feeds deliberately, going deeper and deeper into the craft until the interest catches fire and becomes the consuming drive that powers everything. The man who thinks he lacks the obsession to compete may simply not have gone far enough into anything yet, not have given any pursuit the immersion required for genuine obsession to ignite. Why this should change how you think about your own potential is that you have been told the winners were born special, when really many of them simply fed an interest until it became an obsession, a path that remains open to you the moment you commit to going deep instead of staying shallow across a dozen things you never truly pursue. The obsessed man develops a quality of attention that the talented dilettante never reaches, because obsession focuses the entire force of a person onto a single point, concentrating years of energy into one pursuit, while the talented man scatters his gifts across many things, never going deep enough in any of them to reach the summit. A laser and a floodlight contain similar energy, but the laser cuts through steel, while the floodlight merely illuminates a room, and the difference is concentration, the focusing of force onto one narrow point. Obsession is the laser, the gathering of a man's whole capacity onto one craft pursued relentlessly, while scattered talent is the floodlight, impressive in its range but powerless to penetrate anything deeply. What this teaches you about your own efforts is that spreading yourself across many interests, even with real talent in each, will never produce the penetrating mastery that a single obsession can, and that the choice to concentrate, to go all in on one thing rather than dabbling in many, is itself a decisive advantage.